Hello, this is Gavin Palmer maybe not with, I'm just by myself. It's me and my wife and my children, people I define as friends who want what's best for me, and co-workers, family, all the ancestors. So I don't know if I'm looking. We're all part of a group, but I guess there is a seeking that's going on, and I think it's just a seeking of wanting to help, wanting to be, someone who contributes and helps. So I get to feel like I'm doing that, or my hope is that I'm doing that as a husband and father and coworker and friend, and I do think those are meaningful. I'm going to be listening to this Grimgrows video for the second time on my, regularly scheduled programming that isn't so regular, but trying to keep it up. You experiment with new things, and you can't keep up your old ways and experiment with new things. So, but I'm going to keep trying to do this. I had my dream and I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep. It's 3 a.m. Maybe there's a reason. So maybe this is the reason. I'm going to start by just showing what I do here. So, so I have OBS open. I'm going to go to show recordings, and I usually clean this up. So you've got one that's happening right now. It's growing in file size. And here's the one that I did as a test. I just want to make sure all my audio is working. But what's funny, I want to play it. Test, test, test.
Streaming, I can't tell. Excellent connection. Wow. That's a first. Or it won't last long.
So you notice that I giggle. So Grimgrows, I think he will enjoy, being able to see a reaction. That was a reaction. And this is the second time I'm going through this. When I start this again, it'll be the third time for the beginning part. And it brings about that joy. But it was also kind of ironic because I'm running my test. He's kind of running his test, and I do have my singing voice to some degree when I'm testing. And I don't know if Grimgrid says he's a part of the agency, right? There is no agency. Welcome to the agency. So it's just one of those things you can end up imagining and hallucinating all kinds of things. It's like, I do think that Grimgrid and myself are on a similar wavelength. We're tuned into a similar channel, and so it's we're not the same, definitely, but I'm gonna mention some things as this goes. I'll stop and try to play along, but I'm gonna let Grimgrows go.
This might be streaming, I can't tell. Excellent connection. Wow. That's a first. Or it won't last long. Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome. That's my clips.
So I noticed in the bottom right it said obey, and so I don't know what obey means. I don't know if that's subliminal messaging. I don't know what it is. I'm not an obedient person, but I am looking for people doing things that are good, and I like what Grimgriz is doing. I don't know how to, for example, explain what he's doing to everyone else such that people will agree with me that he's doing good work. But I'm reminded of someone trying to create a show, right? like if you watch the TV and you've got like CNN or Fox News, and I haven't done this in years, but you end up with these banners across the bottom. You end up with these different segments of the show, and I do think that, you know, Grim Grizz is trying to imitate these things, and it's got in a way, it's got like sometimes it's a Stephen Colbert feel, but with Grim Grizz, you know, sometimes it's hard to know how much he's doing for your enjoyment, right? And how much of it is like serious. I've talked to him, so I don't always know how serious he is, but I do think he wants what's best. So let's let him keep going. There goes my wife walking in the background, getting her coffee, upset that I woke her up so early. And then, but I reminded her 6 hours of sleep is pretty good, because when you have babies, we've had 3 babies now, so they challenge you. I'm reminded of a video with Grim Grizz where I think he had the cat come walking through, and he tried to, herding cats is difficult, I'll put it that way. But sometimes trying to herd some children is like trying to herd some cats. So, you know, being a father, being a parent can train you. So what's going on in this home screen? I mentioned to, I think Paul Vanderklay picked up on this point. It's like, why do they call it home? Like, I think Grim Grizz this is a word that I don't like using because it looks like, I don't know, maybe I've been indoctrinated, but there's this word rift or riff. I kind of hate when people use it, because it's like it's a word that's within a tribe, and when you start using a certain language within a tribe, you start signaling, and it excludes other people who don't know what you're talking about. And the only other time I would know of this word riff is in music, which I would say I'm a musician, and pretty good musician. Anyways, home. So, yeah, they call it a home. I think that the people at YouTube are not as good as the people at Android who are giving me my if I swipe and, you know, I get this feed, that's a better feed. They're pretty good at tracking me and seeing what I'm interested in, and tracking just what's happened. Like, they're listening, like, and they'll give me a feed based on what my wife is doing. But this YouTube home, it's not a home. Go to your subscriptions if you really want to, you know, go to your home, because you need to, you know, I'm into the process of, and by the way, if you want to, I recommend going and listening to Grim Grizz. I think it was a great show. My comment was, you are awesome. I've got 2 YouTube channels, so it may be confusing. I'm a Gavin Palmer, and I'm a hero looking for group, Hero LFG. As Gavin Palmer, I ended up doing what Paul Vanderklay recommended a long time ago. I bought the premium. So that could help, you know, like if Grim Grizz was monetized, right, then I'm using my premium account, and I think that he would end up getting more rewards. And I think like Paul Vanderklay gets more rewards when I use my premium account and watch their content. At least that's the way it should be. So I do have a Gavin Palmer comment in this video. How about we look at it? You don't have to rely on my honesty, that's one of the things I do think. I think Grim Grizz is honest. I think Jacob's honest. Jason's honest. Rami. A lot of the people in my Discord server right now are honest. And it's I was telling Jacob, it's a foundation. You know, there's the problem Jacob's trying to figure out is distributed cognition, figuring out who can be trusted. And part of that problem is, can you even trust yourself? Like, I'm skeptical of that. I think I'm pretty good at being skeptical of that. And I think I'm better at being skeptical of that than like Jacob is. But he doesn't see it that way. He sees me as someone who is overly confident. But the honesty is the best foundation. And then the question, what do you do with that honesty? And I think you have to start telling your story. There's a few strategies for earning trust. One of them is that honest people tell their stories about their experiences and everything that they've accomplished and their expertise. And not only that, it's tightly coupled with the mistakes they made. So they made these mistakes and did this learning and this transformation, and it's been going on your entire life. And that's your expertise. And for someone who has, who has been paid to provide a service for years, you end up developing a lot of expertise in this area where you do service. So, and then I asked Jacob, what am I, tried to tell him what I think he's an expert at. What is he an expert at? And I asked him, what does he think I'm an expert at? And, I think the point is, I'm going to go to my tweet. So, Twitter. So in a way, I am kind of following Grim Grizz. I'm kind of following Jacob. We're doing this mimicking. We're trying to, we're seeking the ideal. We're trying to be good friends. We want what's best for you. Remember, embody. I'm not an expert at Twitter. So, servant of God, husband, father, engineer. Let's see. So, my last two tweets, down at the bottom. We don't know what we don't know. Obviously, right? It's not so obvious. Like, I have children. They don't know what they don't know. It's good to remember. So remember, embody, but also remember all those mistakes that we made. And remember, all the suffering that's happening right now. I know a lot of people who are suffering right now. But remember, we don't know what we don't know. Like, we are ignoring so much. To me, these are like holy words. Like, you can go to your holy book and try to find something that's as good as this. The challenge is to identify those who do know what we don't know. So that there's people who know what we don't know. And maybe their knowledge could be of service, could be helpful regarding our goals and the problems we face in trying to accomplish our goals. Because we don't know what we don't know, we don't even know the importance of the other person's knowledge. So, like, I have knowledge about, being a team member in a group trying to accomplish a goal. I have knowledge about using technology to do that, at scale. And my knowledge is limited. And I have knowledge about project management. And so, like, I worked with hundreds and thousands of people. And I'm really good at these things. And so I look at, this little corner of the internet, the question, it would say, who is the best at project management? That it would be good for you to know among, like, and I know this is unique, like Jacob knows someone who's managing a large organization. That person has a role within that organization. And so when I say project management, people may imagine, Jacob may imagine this person he knows who's over thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. But that person's not like a CIO type, right? Chief Information Officer. Like, who's deciding your processes and your technology? So I'm kind of more like, I'm an expert at tech support for doing the process improvement and improving the technology stack to increase productivity and efficiency. That's what I'm good at. Like, the person who is like the CEO, the leader, it would be good if they were in communication with someone like me. That's my experience. So, but yeah, how would I actually convince anyone to trust me with that? Well, anyone who works with me, they would know. So you could have references, or we could work together, which that's challenging because we have bills to pay, and that means we have to actually do something profitable. Otherwise, I could tell you about my experience, and maybe get other people I worked with to be a reference, to speak toward my strengths and weaknesses and experience. So, and you know, the goal is that I continue to develop and grow in these capacities as well. Like, I'm very coachable. I'm very coachable. But then Jacob knows something, and Grimgros knows something, and you know, John Vervaeke knows something, and I don't know. Like, I don't even know how important their knowledge is, right? So this applies for me, and it applies for you, all of us. This is the situation we're in, and this is like the problem we face if we want to do, you know, to have a reliable distributed cognition. For some reason, Jacob thinks that we used to have it. I'm not sure that we ever had it, but that's my bias. I just haven't seen it. When I go read history, I just don't see it. But I'm up here, I've got a post that says, wondering why Elon Musk thinks Twitter is better than LinkedIn when we need a way to identify experts who can be trusted. So I was grazing on the feed. I noticed Grimgros had a tweet. He responded to someone that was like, create the content on Twitter that you want to see. And it's like, well, that's what I'm doing. That's what everyone is doing, right? No, maybe not. Maybe some people are just reacting and not being intentional. So, but yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to do networking and seeking and learning and teaching. But let's click on this link on LinkedIn. What happens? I built this website for a friend with the hope that experts in physics might help explain why it will not be able to provide a reliable source of water in a desert. Okay. Oh, look at that. So insert advert. So we didn't win. So there was like over 1,000 people, and then they narrowed it down to like 270. We made that cut. Then they narrowed it down to 60. We did not make that cut. And then they narrowed it down to 15. And each of those 15 got $1 million as like seed funding. We're waiting for feedback on this for why. My theory is that, like, it looks like I was looking for a pattern among the people who received seed funding. Notice these words, how they're connected to gardening. But my theory is that the people who won are the ones who already had funding, which makes it difficult to get funding, to get your first round of funding. And if your project is very expensive, like trying to go to the moon, Manhattan Project, you know, building a spaceship, if you're trying to do something hard, it's very difficult to do that. And then with ours, it's actually, you know, there's a minimum size. So I think if or when we receive funding, we would actually create it in the virtual space, because the virtual space is cheaper, it's lower cost. I think this is what the people who like speak about the virtual space in kind of a profane, derogatory way, I don't think they realize like yeah, there's risk, but there's also benefits to the virtual space. So yeah, I can, as a software engineer, I can build a lot of things, and it's okay if they don't work. But if I were building bridges, it would be, cost prohibitive to try to build all these different bridges and drive trucks over them and see which ones broke and which ones didn't break, right? All right. So that was your introduction. I still want to say other things as well.
Oh, Zoom full too. There you go. Hi, everybody. I am Griswold Gaius Grimm of the first LARP Ingression Protocol. Nobody asked me about this shit. Nobody asked me about LARPgate. Hey, nobody asked me about LARPgate. Nobody asked me about the first Ingression Protocol. Whatever. You're just here to be entertained now, right?
So, so time and space are not real, right? I can put it a different way. So they talk about in these holy books about a time when, there will be this kingdom, and there will be we will be reunited. So, like the sinners, for example, may, go through processes that might even be like a burning away. And that process might look like coming back into this existence and back out and developing, or it might look like this a different process. But essentially you become purified such that eventually you have this peace on earth, kingdom of heaven type thing. And so with the language we use, we'd say it's in the future. But because space and time are not real, it's like it's already there. Like the kingdom of heaven is already there. It exists. And we do have a way to actually connect with it right here and right now. Yeah, so, when you hear stories about, UFOs, or you have visions, or you have dreams, or you receive information from outside of space-time, these things are related to the fact that time and space are not real. It's like, we could talk about it, but yeah, the language we use, we speak as if time is real. And when you say that word time, it just means that cause and effect is real. So the people of the future are really just people who have, who have encountered this information. The language would be at a different point in time, but there's just these different chain of cause and effect events that overlap, and we just call it the future. So welcome, time travelers. Anyways, the LARPgate, it's you can go to his Discord server. He's got a channel. LARP stands for live action role playing. So yeah, I mean, there is no agency, but we can LARP as being a part of the agency. We can LARP as being part of the body. And then I would point out, what is it? Galatians, Holy Spirit fruit. So this is, from what I can tell, is the best LARP. So yeah, if you're perfect, if you can perfect the manifestation of the fruit of the Holy Spirit, you're doing it. So, that's all you got to do. Not easy. Different environments will give you different challenges, as you try to herd cats, for example, which is kind of what we're doing here, right? We are like the cats, and trying to, it'd be funny, there's a flock and there's a shepherd, but are they sheep or are they cats? Anyways,
Well, I do have for you these 7 things recommended to me by the YouTube algorithm to select from today's show.
And they call it your home.
Lurching toward Bethlehem. Alphabet, thanks for being here. It's so much better when I think somebody's watching.
So Bethlehem, um, I like the idea that we try to, I was playing with the idea that we all try to be like the Messiah, but I think just using this language that we have, it's probably better to try to be John the Baptist. Be on the lookout for the Messiah. And it's connected though. The best way to be on the lookout is to practice doing it, and being real, like to know that I'm making mistakes, right? Don't become delusional and imagine you're perfect. You want to know that you want to remember the mistakes you made and be on the lookout for the mistakes you're making. You don't know what you don't know. But if you're lurching toward Bethlehem, maybe it's connected to being on the lookout, being like the John the Baptist pattern, or the 3 wise men, that are bringing the gifts to, for the newborn. So yeah, I really like. There are special people in the world. You get like von Neumann. I'd heard in a Jordan Peterson podcast how someone said, he was talking to, I know his face, kind of the heavyset black guy. He talks with McWhorter. McWhorter. It's Glenn Lowry. That's it. Old brain finally warmed up. So yeah, he was Jordan Peterson talking to Glenn Lowry, and it had come up that von Neumann, as a hobby, contributed to economics. So like, I think this flies in the face of some things that Jacob Facciocchi thinks about. For example, like take John Vervaeke. John Vervaeke can spend years, trying to do this thing that I'm not even sure what he's doing. Like, what is he contributing? I don't know. And I'm not going to say it's not important. I just don't understand it. It's like I learned all this stuff about math. I was really good at math. But then if I don't use it, then I kind of forget it. And so, yeah, how useful is this thing that John Vervaeke knows? And maybe you look at the fruit to know how useful it is. Going back to Galatians. And then part of that fruit is, he's facing a problem. He's facing a problem. Paul Vanderklee's facing this problem of the institutions are kind of crumbling. And these are leaders within their institutions, and they have these communities, and they actually are finding more meaning in these, or at least maybe not more, but they're finding a lot of meaning in these communities. And so I think in the back of their mind, they want to be able to do a transition from a previous thing into a new thing. They're going to somehow want to have an amicable divorce with the previous institution and try to create something new, or be a part of something that emerges, and they don't know what they're doing, even though there are people who in their community who actually would know better than them about the answers to some of the problems related to trying to create a community, like this community building process. But let me go back to my tweet. We don't know what we don't know. The challenge is to identify those who do know what we don't know. Because we don't know what we don't know, we don't even know the importance of the other person's knowledge. remember, embody. So, when I start writing this, I start out being accusatory and pointing. I was writing to Jacob. Jacob, you don't know what you don't know. And then I think, oh, actually, we don't know what we don't know, right? You can't identify what I know. Well, hold up. Jacob probably knows things I can't identify. Because we don't know what we don't even know the importance of the other person's knowledge. That's right. So Jacob doesn't know the importance of my knowledge. He doesn't know, my history and my experience. And he's never talked to the references that I've worked with that have benefited from my service. He doesn't know about all of that. But then I don't know about his past either. So we probably have to be honest and talk about our past, or we have to do work together, or we have to formulate some kind of standardized test. Are there more options than those three? It's all about hiring, firing, promoting, and demoting, And so the answer to how do you hire, fire, promote, and demote is you choose one of these three options. Boom. So the answer to the question, to the problem of deciding how to do hiring, firing, promoting, and noting so I see three possibilities, possible answers, possibly answers to the problem of deciding how to do hiring, firing, promoting, and demoting. Be honest and share our experiences. Work together. Do work together. And standardized testing. So these are the three that come to mind. Boom. You saw it here first, guys. No, you didn't. Let's keep going. I had a point. Yeah, this is all related. The thing we're trying to do here, Chad, the alcoholic, he had an idea about trying to create some kind of documentary about what we're doing in this little corner of the internet. And so he's had these questions. And one of the questions was like, what do you think we're doing? And I said, we're circling around this thing, called the meaning crisis. There's a lot of names for this thing we're circling around. We give it a bunch of names. There's a problem with sense making. There's a problem with finding our purpose and finding meaning in life. And or you could even simplify it. We're trying to do something about our suffering. That's connected to Buddhism and I guess Reiki a little bit too. We're circling. There's people here saying, "Oh, I've got answers." There's other people. I'd say maybe I went from someone I got answers to someone like, "I can help," right? Which is part of the answer, I think. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. But we haven't figured out how to do it. I'm trying to point people. Maybe it's I know the answer in my heart, and I can like embody it. And then when I make mistakes, I can say, "Oh yeah, I didn't do it right." And that's my kind of knowing. It's the kind of knowing that I participate and do it, and do error correction with people like Jacob, Grim Grizz, Jason, my wife, my children, my coworkers, everybody. So, and I get better at doing it. And I try to create opportunity for other people. So there's my, I could always put it in the description. Hey, get in touch with me if you think I'm making mistakes, because you want what's best for me. Some mistakes are more important than other mistakes. What is it? Like you could be seeing something that's like, oh, it looks like you have these symptoms that indicate that you are eating this in your diet and you have an allergy, and if you changed your diet, your brain would start working better, you wouldn't need as much sleep, you'd have better memory. That would be nice. Like if we could actually help each other like that to really solve some important problems.
With Hive Mind chat, I'm mining their chat for content, and look, look,
I'm mining. It's actually difficult to schedule up a live, like real-time conversation with other people, because we all, a lot of us are busy. I'm busy. And sometimes you feel like it, and sometimes you don't. I woke up at 3 a.m. I mean, how many other people, if I was live streaming this, I don't know who would be up and going.
No, I gotta say that every single time. But first, here at the Grim Grizz live stream, you get saving throws versus mind control. Everything you watch on YouTube is mind control, but here you get savings throws, and those are determined by you selecting either survival, social, wisdom, or heart. And
So Grimgos has a previous video about the muggles. There's a phrase, don't let the muggles get you, but he was turning it around and saying, we're actually not muggles. Like, if you're using words, like, then you're casting spells. So there is a mind control going on. Anytime you use these symbols that are able to communicate, right, that is a mind control. It is. For an example, it could say a delicious red apple might mean something to some of you, right? Maybe not, the person who's like in a tribe that's in a place where apples don't grow.
And now we have a very special selected. What? Just do it. Okay. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. But not that. That's fine. Do that. Okay, here we have for you. This is a view.
There's that joy you get from watching people struggle sometimes. It's similar to the joy people get when someone like crashes their bike. Like, I think there was a time in my life where I kind of thought that was funny, the slapstick comedy. Then there became a time in my life where my mirror neurons maybe kicked in. I developed empathy, or my empathy like reached a certain level where I no longer like seeing it. But there is something interesting about watching people struggle. Maybe that's the entertainment piece.
Mm-hmm. This is a view of my view. What is safe streamer mode engaged? Disable. Now does it work? Yeah, no, yes, no, maybe. Oh, you gotta put it over. Yeah, okay. This is what is known as, if you've never been on before, This is what the browser oh wait, they can see what servers you're on. This is what the browser not the browser, the app, the desktop, the
I did in the first video actually go and look, see his server list and his notifications and things like that. I'm always interested, like, I would love to see someone's inbox, their mail inbox. I mean, I don't really want to show you mine, right? But I'm gonna look. So I'm pulling up Gmail, and my personal email, I'm not gonna say it. That's the thing, is like, as we build trust with each other, you can actually like share more connection info that are redundancies, so that in case your platform disappears, you don't just lose your connections. I mean, this is one of the big mistakes I made in the past, was just working with amazing people and not developing those relationships. I missed out on a lot of opportunities. A lot of my mistakes had to do with just missing out on opportunities to develop relationships with awesome people. And then probably just not very good at doing that in general. Oh yeah, so I can show you. No, I don't want you to see. So I've got this, I could kind of hide it. No, but yeah, my main account has 26 unread. Then my business has 64 unread. And then my work email has 17. Like the people that pay me money, pay my bills, I have 17 unread. Looks like I have 4 unread for like the convective heat engine. I can see my wife has 2 unread. She's better than me. And I have another one that's this old address where at one point we stored photos there because I think we were trying to avoid paying Google for drive storage. At one point in my life, I was really struggling financially. And it had to do with learning and education. You know, sometimes you don't make a lot of money when you're starting out developing your skills and don't have a lot of valuable things to offer. But that's when you're really growing, or there's a lot of opportunity to learn because there's a lot you don't know when you're at that stage.
This could be edited out in the Briss edition if I did those regularly. Why, look, ladies and gentlemen, live in the...
Should I pause? You want to be on my stream, on my recording?
Oh, I know what you're rambling about.
Well, so there's something interesting about like how many unread messages you have. Like you have 2 unread messages. I have 4 email inboxes, and then like I've got unread messages. They're all less than 100, but there were times when I had thousands of unread messages, and in email, yeah. And I've seen people have 10,000 unread messages. It's just one of those things. It's an indicator. It's like a test. Like, what kind of person are you? How responsive are you? You have 2 unread. Yeah. I mean, I could go click on it. Let's see. Yeah, you have 2. They're just notifications about payment process. You're paying bills. You're paying bills right now. Yeah, so I outsource. You are the responsible one. I do not like paying the bills and paying taxes, and like I kind of get angry when I pay taxes. I'd like to avoid that. Like I would prefer that the government sends me a check. Like I know it's like people are good at finance. They say, oh, well, don't let the government have the money. You shouldn't have, the government should not be sending you money because, you know, the money you have now, you can control, like you can invest and grow that money, which is smart and right. But the feeling of just of me handing the money over to the government. It just feels like someone is stealing my money, and so I'd prefer to ignore that. The government, yeah. It's hard to put. Like, if you knew who I was and you had been in my shoes, you would understand. Like, the, like, I had, yeah, I was very good at a lot of things, put it that way, and I get to look around and see what the average person does. So it's disappointing, and it's also disappointing that someone who's very good at a lot of things doesn't have kind of more say, more power, or just kind of equal power, pretty much, with everyone else, no matter how good you are at whatever you do, and no matter how much you know. I think that's why I try to start a business. It's definitely why I try to build relationships with people now. It's like I definitely don't trust the government to solve these problems. I feel like there is no agency. We have to become the agency.
You still haven't set it up. You son of a... Live in the Hive Mind chat. The perennial force. Hello. Look at that. I'm mining you for content right now. Hey, okay, so with the important, I just went over in case you're just tuning in. Tuning in.
It reminds me of the conspiracy theory about Saturn's rings being like some type of a recording medium in which there's these frequencies being exchanged. I think that's a David Icke. I heard it from David Icke, but he probably got it from someone else. Where do these ideas come from? But yeah, I'm also reminded of Jordan Peterson saying, don't mistake yourself for the wave. Like, you got to have this awareness of being, if you ever become popular, Grim Grizz, maybe he'd be popular one day. Don't confuse yourself with the wave. Like, it's not you, it's a wave. And then I'm also like, you hit it at the right time. You were at the right place at the right time, and you got up on your surfboard and that wave, and you were able to ride it, and you're hoping that you don't fall off and die, right? That was what Jordan Peterson was doing. He was surfing a big wave, and he almost died. And then there's Elizabeth Gilbert. I guess it was Eat, Pray, Love. I haven't read the book. I just know that I've listened to her on a TED Talk. Elizabeth Gilbert. And she talked about the concept of genius. We have a genius instead of we are a genius. So this is similar to like that creative genius. So your elusive creative genius TED Talk, and which you just managed to do, that idea comes through at the right time in the right place, and you grab onto it and you ride that thing, you hold on to it. I know when I used to, Gringos talked about shishak and like shishak, the cannabis plant. I used to do that, and man, I would have the ideas, these geniuses and these spirits just flying through my brain, just boom, 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 boom. And I could grab one and I could write it. And so what I would do is I got a whiteboard, I'd get the recorder out, and I'd write it out, boom. And then I'd say, okay, I got it. And I'd get another one, write it out, boom, boom. And it looked like madness. And it was madness, just ideas, inventions, thoughts, just getting hit with all kinds of spirits. And I mean, that's how I found the Holy Spirit, is like the recognition at some point that, just asking the right questions and thinking about the possible answers to those questions and figuring out really starting to recognize the Holy Spirit as being better than all these other spirits, or more important. Like, these other spirits are powerful forces that shouldn't be ignored, but if you're going to be possessed by a spirit, you might, and you can choose which one. It's like possessed by or possessed. Like, you can. It's not that it possesses you. You actually have to grab that thing and ride it. Whatever the wave, that wave that you can surf, that genius that's flying by, you grab it. So that's Galatians. You get really good. You got to be able to identify, distinguish between the Holy Spirit and those that aren't holy, and practice grabbing it and holding on to it, and so that you can manifest these fruit and embody God into this existence. And as we do that, we create the kingdom of heaven on earth and create peace on earth. That's the answer. But obviously more details. Like I asked, I like to call them friends. I think they want what's best for me, and I want what's best for them. But I asked them, my Jewish friends, I said, hey, I shared this idea, and it's like, well, what's the difference between this? Obviously, Jacob thinks that it's a poke at the Jews and the law, the Jewish law, and it might be, but that's not. I don't necessarily care about the poke. I care about like what works. And then Yosef, he's like, well, how is this any different than the two main rules and laws, is to love God and love your neighbor? And it's like, well, this just gives you more detail. But that's all. That's what the Jews should be doing. That's what the children of God should be doing. It's like we're supposed to, by embodying the Holy Spirit, we are bringing better resolution, increasing the amount of detail about what it looks like. How do you use YouTube with the Holy Spirit? How do you use Twitter with the Holy Spirit? How do you be a father? We've got, and with cars and taxes, and you've got all of these things. How do you do that with the Holy Spirit? And so you start with love God and love your neighbor. You don't even have to start there, but you get there. But then you get to these things, the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And you get to things like, oh, I need help. We have to cooperate and coordinate. And maybe I shouldn't be looking down on other people. I'm going to pull up YouTube, Jacob Facciarecci, Father Hugh. I'm going to bring up Claire Call. Jacob. So I really enjoyed, let's bring up Claire Call. The first part was kind of boring.
This binary thinking of, we are human beings. None of us have the absolute truth. We are finite. And the truth...
We're capable of grasping principles.
We are. But we all must repent. We must always repent, which means to think again, because as human beings, we are limited, we are finite, and so
I know, but we're capable of understanding the concept of idolatry, and you're letting them off the hook.
Well, first of all, I do have to say,
at the expense of your own people.
No.
So Jacob, he's arguing for similar to what, like Jacob looks at Christians and Muslims, and he's echoing Maimonides, who said that these other religions will bring people closer to the true God of Israel and Judaism. And Jacob's arguing for a pragmatic way. Like, you don't just go in and say the Trinity's wrong and you're a sinner and you're doing idolatry and you better watch out and you're in trouble. You don't, like, like, so Claire, she used this phrase, be cruel to be kind, and I asked for an example. So Jacob has a prison channel, which is, I think, a good idea, on his Discord server. And it's like, I'd like an example. When do you ever be cruel to be kind? And what I'd said is, like, long ago I'd recommended to Claire that she needed to try to grow a garden, because then it would teach her these things that she doesn't know. And she thought that was condescending, but that word is perceived as a derogatory word. And she didn't accuse me of being that, but when people behave in a condescending way, it actually prevents them from, it's not the strategy by which they end up learning and changing and improving. And I think that's Jacob's point. Like, there is a way to be in which it facilitates the growth. So you learn that if you're a gardener, you learn how to facilitate that growth. Or if you're raising children, you learn to facilitate that growth. So Claire, if she was a good mother or a good gardener, she would know she would not be trying to be cruel to Christians. And Jacob is pointing at essentially what Paul of Tarsus was pointing at here, in my opinion, is that against such things there is no law. So, like, Claire wants to be cruel to the Christians, and Jacob wants to be loving toward the Christians. And what's funny is I'm trying to, like, that's the way I am too, except that I look at Judaism and Jacob and Joseph similar to the way that he's looking at Christians and Muslims, for example. The question, ultimately it goes back to, hey, we don't know what we don't know. So, do the Jews have it figured out? Well, if they did have it figured out, you would see peace on earth. So they haven't figured it out yet, right? I think that this meaning crisis and everything where this little corner of the internet is trying to do is connected to this idea that we can solve these problems and move closer toward, the kingdom of God on earth, peace on earth. And, do the Jews know? Maybe. If it works, it works, right? These things that Paul talk about, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, if it works, it works. If the Jews have these laws and justice systems that work, then it works. It's, and if there's things in those books that don't work, then they don't work, right? You can actually do the experiments. You can facilitate the education and the learning such that you know what works. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing Claire call. Enjoyed their exchange. I still have about an hour. I've gotten up to like 2 hours and 28 minutes on this. I got more to do there. But pretty good.
I just went over that you get savings throws here and you pick survival, social, wisdom, or art. But now we have this fun new game. You see over here on this desktop edition of the Discord app thing. We're currently in the disclaimer where you can see everything I've ever done slowly over time. It's where I make the announcements that I'm being on the internet and stuff. But look here. Thanks to Adela Darling, you can now earn bonuses to the next live stream saving throws in the town square. And you see how it's all weird looking like that? You can click on it. +1 to whichever savings throw is emojied by the folks here, the participatory community here at the Broken Clock Tower Discord. It looks like a clock over there in your server list.
So it's man, just look at these trees being planted. One thing, there's a phrase I gave Gringer is called gamify. I want to gamify peace on earth. I think that's what he's interested in doing, and I think he communicated that to me. So he has a fog, like Carlos Castaneda and Don Juan taught Carlos about, having a fog about you. I definitely don't do that. I try to communicate my intent, or at least I think that's the way it should be. That we try to communicate our intent. So, yeah, I haven't ever heard Grimgriz talk about a goal of peace on earth, specifically. What's the goal? The LARP Gate, Ingression Protocol, the General Gaius Grim, he's got a channel, but I don't see peace on earth. There's not a lot of people talking about peace on earth, because I do remember it kind of being this ostracized thing. Like, there's probably some YouTube clips of Miss America pageants where people get up and talk about wanting peace on earth. And actually, I did a pageant in high school, and I got up and I was talking about peace on earth back then. And they asked me, how do you do it? And it's like, you've got 5 minutes to explain how we can have peace on earth. It's like, I've been doing this. That would have been like 2003, right? So it's about 20 years later. I'm still figuring it out, right?
Is your share something that helps us survive, be more social, shares wisdom, or is full of heart? Now, we, the people at the Broken Clock Tower Discord, can let you know. See, and if you click on this town square part, it takes you to the town square, which, if you look way up here at the top, it says promote yourself. What? Oh, what if I click on it? Promote yourself here, C-pin. What's in the pin here? Oh, look, pinned messages. It's a Kit Lamps EM proof beanie thing, where you can click it to get a hat. It's a +3 to savings throw, by the way. Also, welcome to the town square. The rest of the server is for my self-promotion and all the other stuff. This tiny little corner is for all of you to promote yourself. So, people come by and they post their content here. And people who watch the content can now assign it a savings throw bonus.
I'm gonna, what is it? There's two things that have happened on this Discord server that I didn't like. I'll put it this way. There's one person that I've got muted there. There you go. I don't have to name a name. Drop a name. It's not Grimgriz. But I do have one person muted there. I did not communicate that I had muted them, because the last time I did that, I got kicked out of a Discord server. So that experiment did not go as planned. People become irrational when you tell them that you're going to ignore them. Imagine that. And then I think at one point I pinged Paul Vanderclay over here, and Grimgriz got mad at me. Well, he didn't get mad at me. I could perceive it that way. He said, "Don't do it again." So for me, like, I work in a company. Like, I was at, I work in a company, and I have a connection with, like, I'm able to actually ping, people who have a lot of power and attention. Like, I actually know how to communicate signals, and I'm used to being listened to, and I'm used to being able to do teaching and learning with a lot of people, including people who are the head of large organizations. So I know something about the proper way of using this technology. Yeah, like most people don't have as much experience as I do in using technology to accomplish a goal together, right? It's just, I mean, this is John Vervaeke's issue. This is, I mean, like this is the thing I know that these other people don't know. At least that's my claim. And is there a standardized test? Is there some, how would I actually prove it, right? Because you may think you know better than me. You may not even know that the things I know are important. But yeah, the only way you would know is if I somehow shared experiences of how my communication techniques have improved productivity. My ideas and my practices have improved productivity for the group and their goals. So we either have to do work together, which is hard because we've got a lot of other commitments, or we have to practice being honest and sharing our experiences, or we got to have some tests, which would be nice if we got there one day. Like you could take a test and then you were identified as a, whatever, 5 stars for 1, 2, 3, 4 things, and then 2 stars for this, or whatever. It'd be nice to actually have the kind of rating, like when China does the reputation score. Like the idea of a reputation score is not bad, but it's the answer to the question about how to do it. There's a bunch of options, and some are going to be bad and some are going to be good. So the idea itself isn't bad. It's just that specific implementation may be bad.
So people that come to the town square can post their content, and people that watch their content can now provide a savings throw bonus. +1 heart and +2 if they choose social to this savings throw that's up and coming on this here next live stream. The bonuses, see, we look live stream bonuses reset due to the live stream. You're not in the hive mind of right now.
So like, I would say this is encouraging, right? So when I see Jacob create 3-hour videos, Grim Grizz creates these, and then try to invite people to participate. There's a part of me that, like, I'm aware that, like, I don't want to waste people's time. So there are people who are just kind of overwhelmed. And I could probably help with that problem. And I don't want to waste their time. That's what one of the heads of the organization I'm in, they had to teach me. It's like, they basically, said I was wasting their time. And was trying to help coach me on how to not waste their time. So I'm aware of how to not waste people's time. But then, I listen to Paul Vanderklay, John Vervaeke, Grim Grizz, Jacob, and, honestly, most of the stuff that we're creating is a waste of time, as far as if you were trying to go mine that signal out of the noise, right? And so he just mentioned reaping. And so that is a good activity. The thing is about reaping, what is the goal, right? That's like I mentioned Paul Vanderklay earlier. It's like, what's his goal? If we actually knew everyone's goals, then we could, get better at curating, reaping the content that helps that individual with their goal, or the group that have a shared goal, shared aim. We could reap the content to help the group. And so communicating your goal is important. That's why I like to be explicit when I talk about things like peace on earth. I'm trying to be explicit when I talk about, these fundamental problems that I'm trying to solve. Like I'm not, even the name Hero Looking for Group is an attempt to be explicit. Like, I was thinking about this, how do I actually communicate this? And there's a part of me that's thinking, like, is there some test? Is there a test I could take where I could, like, earn trust? What's the test? Like, I started looking at the millennial problems. There were 7. One of them got solved. And if you solve them, you can get $1 million. And these are, like, some problems that haven't been solved for over 100 years. More than 100 years for some of them. And so I started digging into mathematics, and I'm like, I enjoy mathematics. Like, I could probably do mathematics for fun. Like, when Jacob is doing Hebrew, I could imagine myself creating a channel that's dedicated to mathematics. Like, I even think maybe mathematics is more important than Hebrew, right? So there's a part of me that's thinking, well, maybe I could go try to solve one of these, like the NP problem, which is related to computer science. Maybe I can go try to solve that one. I actually worked with a coworker who recommended, he's like, you think highly of yourself, go solve one of these problems. So it would be, I went, I've peeked at it twice now. And it's like, it would take a lot of energy to go solve that problem. And then the question would be, if I did solve that problem, would I earn trust as someone who is one of the world's best problem solvers? Yeah, that's the question. It's like, how do you actually earn trust? What if I went and solved the problem and it's like I get $1 million and I get ignored and treated like, just an average human being, right?
Okay, so now everybody's getting a bonus who has a bonus on the thing they put there. They get the bonus on this savings throw. Up and coming. If you want new bonuses, you're going to have to promote your own creations because you should be creators. There's a spark of the creator in you.
Yeah, I completely agree with this. Like, the creative force is very powerful. And so what Grim Grizz, he's inspiring. I think that's good. I want to, but I do think that it would be nice if we can we can create something as a team, right? So this exercise may be just a practice of creating, and maybe that process of creating helps kind of our own personal transformation, and anyone who participates with us, maybe their transformation as well. That's good. So yeah, I think this is good stuff. And sometimes I do wonder if people, and even myself, too easily dismiss Grim Grizz. Like, this is good stuff.
And you are made in the image of the creator. So create things and then tell us at the Broken Clock Tower Discord in the town square.
Are we made in the image of the creator? Maybe we have that potential. Maybe the author of the holy book who said that was made in the image of the creator and had manifested that potential. Right? They created something. But to say that all people, it's like there's a potential that can be, under the right conditions, can be expressed. It's kind of like, are you going to can you look at my genes to know if I will get cancer? It's like, well, maybe you look at my genes and you see, oh, there's the potential that he could get the cancer. But maybe with the right diet and exercise, he wouldn't. Or maybe with you could call it right or wrong, but with a different selection of a different environment with experiences and inputs and outputs, you would, right? So, on to something. The truth is always more nuanced.
So our good friend Wayne Or what was it? What was it, Wayne? Something Batman reference guy. You get. Oh, stop it! Stop it! No, it's music. Play it. Turn it down. You, sir, get a +2 if you choose social, or a +1 if you choose heart for this creation in the other browser. There it is. It looks like Snot Chaser. You know that, right? Right here on this, right here. Oh, you can't see my cursor, but if you look right after the S, it looks like an N from here.
It would be cool if, like, when you were watching this content, if it automatically, like, linked. So then, when Grim Grows created this video that I'm watching, there could be a link that pops up where I could click it. And Grim Grows shouldn't have to do this. The software can do this. And then I would be able to take into this other channel and take into the song. And then when you watch this, you would have a link to the Grim Grows link, but then you may also, it'd even be cooler if it's time-stamped. You might even have like nested links. Could be interesting. So like, you know, there's these, you can end up with like copyright claims, and they do have the technology to do these kinds of things, but it would be nice if the platform allowed for just emergent networks. Like, this is kind of what Grim Grows is doing, and what I'm participating in is this, you know, is it the intellectual light web? And does light web mean lightweight? Or does it mean light as in the power of the light to shine brightly in a room full of darkness?
Can we turn the lyrics on? Oh, it is. Look, we can sing along. Where are the words? I just turned them on. But someone has to be good. Music. Music. We try and tone match at least, right? Anyway, oh, wait, where are we at? 8 minutes deep. We now get to the savings throw part. To which that lad gets a +1 if he chooses art and a +2 if he chooses social, because he has shared his own creation here in the town square section of the Broken Clock Tower Discord, just like Chris Pet Cow.
Before I go on, I want to say that if you do what I do and you listen to this, the music, it's interesting how the music doesn't sound right if it's at like a different speed. I do wonder if there are forms of music that sound good forwards, backwards, and at different speeds.
Who has shared with us something that earned him a +2 if he chooses social, +1 if he chooses art, or a +1 if he chooses survival. He's got some survival up in here somewhere. Let's see if we can find it.
Man does not live by bread alone. If you want to save the world, then let it go. Whether you believe in God or UFOs, if you try to stop the rain, you never grow. There's a lonely road to take that most don't know, where stolen hope and broken soldiers go. A path to go to where a garden grows, where water overflows, that's healing all our souls. But don't rush, don't want to get there too fast. Step by step on this crazy path, brick by brick, so that it's made to last.
I can put words in his mouth.
Damn you, mute button on the microphone. No, you're very useful. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I take it all back. Oh, we're doing savings throws. Everybody ready? I hope by now you've chosen either to survive. Now you gotta fix this because you messed it up a minute ago. Shut up. I hope by now you've chosen to either survive, be social, be wise, or have heart. Here are your savings throws versus the following mind control. Whoa!
It'd be cool if I know that Chris, I think he became a dad, and recently, and it'd be cool to have a way to get exposure to dad problems and dad answers. Similarly, you could do husband problems and husband answers, but I guess, the thing is there's so many different kinds of personalities. That was interesting when you have kids is that there's a personality in there. There's a personality even when they're in the womb. So similarly with marriages, right? We all have different personalities. I guess I could always try to point out this, and then you get tested. So yeah, being a parent, I think, you can kind of cruise through life. You can get into a point in life where you're just cruising, you're on cruise control, autopilot, and then, you can enter into a point in your life where you're tested. And so a lot of the people that even Jesus, he wasn't a father, right? So, and he wasn't a husband. So there's things that he missed out on. He wasn't tested with those things. So, and you got the Buddha, you got Buddhist monks, just remember that when you listen to people, just think about how much they've been tested. And then obviously we'll be making some assumptions. That's where it would probably be good if we be honest and share our experiences. I'm reminded of a guy, Thaddeus Russell. And he basically shared his story, and he thought that sharing your story is important, and I'm probably coming to his side on this. It's like, how else are we going to trust each other? But yeah, I was interested in him because he's a postmodernist, and it would be cool if he spoke with people who don't like postmodernism. I like this idea of getting people who disagree together to have conversations so that we can actually practice doing this. That's kind of why I liked that Claire Call, Jacob Facciarelli part. I want to see people who disagree, engaging with each other. I want to see more of that. It's really good. I have blog posts about it. Let's see, posts. There's going to be something about disagreements. Ooh, we're going way back. Disagreement. How to encounter disagreement. Facebook doesn't have a thumbs down reaction. YouTube got rid of theirs. You think you can't know your thumbs down count. A disagreement is potentially the most valuable signal of all because it is an opportunity for learning to take place. There's a lot in here that is outdated. I probably should go back and reference something about this. I guess I could just talk about, is the Holy Spirit in here? Nope. The fruit? Nope. Compassion? Oop. I didn't talk about compassion. I didn't talk about love. yeah, it's outdated.
Oh, look at that. The survivalists with the beautiful number 9. Number 9. Number 9. 369. Damn, you're fine. Sock it to me. Sock it to me. +3. That's what you get if you purchased a hat. The code is tinfoil, by the way. You might need that. It's all caps, TINFOIL. That might help you survive. Ooh, an 11, the number of transformation. For those of you who chose the social savings throw versus this mind control. Oh, I did say 369, right? We're missing the 6, the 6. But here's the 3 on the sophist savings throw. You're so wise. You're so wise. That's why you get a 3 versus mind control. Your head is full of 2 sevens, 14 heart. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It helps if I make ooh noises while I move. Get that right? Ooh. Now, if you had posted content because you're a creator in the town square and somebody had given you a heart emoji, then you would have had a +1 to that 14, making it 15, which is no better than getting over 10. This is how that works.
Off your shoes and step on the grass. Breathe in deep and let the panic pass. Frantic madness that seeks to grasp you. Satan wants to capture, but he can't have you. It's all good. It's all good. You're right on time to change the frequency. When hard things start to come easily, where God is seen in absolutely anything, because everything is heavenly. Forgive yourself 7 times 70, especially for what you
7 times 70. That's like 14 with a this is also in the town square and got the bonus to that savings throw.
He tried to do some math there. So I remember being at my friend's house and telling the story. So this is going to be a story within a story. Telling the story how I was in the most advanced math course, and I was reading a book. This was my high school year, and I was reading a book, and the math teacher is asking a problem, and I know I can predict the future because I know my math teacher. She thinks that she's going to get me. I know she's going to try to get me, so I stop reading, and I kind of pretend I'm reading, and I listen to the problem, and I solve it in my head, and then she says, "What's the answer, Gavin?" And then I go, blah, 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 blah. And she stops. She's like, "Well, you need to put your book down and come up to the board and show us how you did it." And then my friend's mom did not believe me. And I started telling her what I could do with math. I'm like, I can divide 2 5-digit numbers in my head. And, I said, I'm not that fast. You have to give me some time, but I can do it. And so she would give me some numbers, and I'd do it, and she'd say, "That's amazing." And I think I could do it. It probably took me, it might take, I'd just say it took 1 minute, right? If I didn't make a mistake. Because the way I do it is I visualize it all in my head. I build out, the way I would do it on a whiteboard, I would do it in my head, and I would have to maintain all the numbers in my head and just build out this image inside my head. And as long as I kept, tracking through everything and keeping it all in my head, then it wouldn't take as long. But if I forgot, I would have to start over and redo my work, and then it takes longer. But that's not useful. So if I wanted to do that again, I'd have to practice. It's kind of like at one point I knew how to solve the Rubik's Cube because I had learned an algorithm. But that's not useful either. And then what's impressive are the people who actually, they don't go out and get someone else to teach them the algorithm. They actually figure out the algorithm on their own. That's not me. And the people who can just, the answer to the 5-digit divided by 5-digit just drops into their mind immediately. That's not me. But there's very few people who can actually do what I can do, and then even fewer people who can do these other things that I can't do. I mention that because it's like how standardized testing, or be honest and share our experiences, and like how are you going to know that I'm a problem solver? How are you going to trust me? And then, so what's your goals, right? And once you communicate your goals, then maybe we can talk about how the best way to accomplish those goals, right? This is all related to peace on earth.
With your adventures and not being successful, right? Like going around in limbo, not making decisions in life, right? But also still coming back, right? Like, and then it's like, yeah, you keep coming back, and every time you come back, it's one more affirmation.
Yeah.
Every time you come back to this live stream, it's more affirmation that A, I am awesome, and have a limited edition t-shirt that's available in the description, and B, confirmation that you want to stick it to YouTube and help me get over 1,000 subscribers by adding your live watch time to the stream, which is one of the most valuable gifts I can give unto the algorithm. And since I give it unto the algorithm, it rains down on us all because
I have 3 YouTube accounts subscribed to Grimgriz, so I don't know if that is good or bad, but it's the way it is. So this Galatians thing, what I realized, I've remembered, because I've already had remembered that I had realized this before and then remembered it a few times before, but I remembered again this morning that when I wake up, it's like I have forgotten. My memories have changed. I'm a new person, and so every day when I wake up, I have to remember those things that are important. I actually went and did some research about sleep and its impact on memory. So you have to get your sleep so that your memory works correctly, but then also when you sleep, you are releasing serotonin, which is impacting some of those memories as well. And so using some process, protocol, technology to kind of remember would be important. I had the thought that maybe something like a prayer before you go to bed and a prayer before you wake up would be good. Whatever those things are that are most important. Maybe love God and love your neighbor. Maybe it's these things. Maybe it's this. I'm not a big fan of all the things Paul had to say, Paul of Tarsus, but maybe this is the thing, his one good idea. It's like you can, Jacob he likes to say garbage in, garbage out, and it's like, not really, buddy. Like I watched my dad jump into dumpsters and pull out couches and put it in our house. Like one man's trash is another man's treasure. Jacob does not know what he's talking about with regard to working on a team with people, with a diverse group of people. So that's my take. Let's see. Oh, that seemed to be related. It just reminded me about, he pulled up Iron Root. And it's interesting why, like I try to reach out to people and connect with people and they'll ignore me. Iron Root is one of those people who made me feel like I was ignored. And it's, what does his inbox look like on his email? Or what does his notifications look like on his Discord? It's interesting looking at that. It tells you something about where the person is in their development. Are they smoking cigarettes? Are they overweight? Are they there's their inbox full of unread messages, or there's this clean your room idea that I know you guys may have heard about.
Because it's a pyramid thing, right? Special thanks to the Shadow Cabal of production executives. But I just got, like, when I went to see the count number on how many there were, I got somebody canceled on me. They said, "You're not worth my time or attention, sir. Much less my hard-earned dollars," which is just my time and attention converted into paper squares. So I have to lower it to 16 now. I have one less anonymous. 'Cause that means a bigger share of the prize for all of you when I take this company global. See?
So that one unsubscribed may have been me. He didn't name drop or anything, but I think I gave him some money, and then I tried to change my name, because at one point he had people's names, and I was like, I prefer to have a different name. I wanted to be the Santa impersonator. And then there's a question. I'm going through these monthly bills, and it's like, do I want to support these people? That's the question. Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. I do think it is that your attention is valuable, and like, I'm talking to Grim Grizz and I'm talking to everyone. Like, all of our attention is super valuable. So that's one thing. There's also this vampires and zombies thing that I want to be careful about as well. I think we really have to be careful about this. And so, like, there's an idea of the preacher. The preacher, or maybe the rabbi. It's like the best teacher, preacher, rabbi, I think, is going to be the one who, like, actually has, like, a valuable skill set that's providing service. Not just like an entertainer, like someone who's writing fiction and playing football. Like, that's my opinion, right? Someone who knows how to grow food and build houses and has a skill set that if you were to, like, if all of a sudden there was an EMP, all this information goes away, you've developed a skill set where you can go do it. You can contribute. Jacob Facciocchi likes to talk about, imagine, he thinks I don't understand all of the people and network that have lent toward where we are at right here and right now, this complex system. And I mean, in a way he's right, but in a way I think he acts like he's disregarding that some people understand better than other people, right? And so he might think, because he can't understand it, and because John Vervaeke can't understand it, that means that I can't understand it. And yeah, he used the phrase combinatorial explosion. Yeah, but, like, some people can get a better picture, right? It's not going to be the whole picture, but some people have a better picture than other people. And so, the question is, how do we figure that out? And then another question is, like, who is the ideal teacher? So the Jews would agree with me. It's like, it's not Jesus. He did not create peace on earth, and he was not a husband, and he was not a father. These are things that are, like, the ideal human is going to end up. There's a lot you miss out on when you are not married and you are not parenting. There's a lot of learning that you miss out on. Yeah. when you are just feeding on other people's attention, I think that's a dangerous relationship. Whether you're in Hollywood, like Hollywood, the place that is doing the magic, the master mind controllers. You're with these major media outlets. I mean, if you're doing education, ideally the education is not something that you become wealthy doing. Or another way to put it is you don't want to become dependent upon it. And then I'll echo what Jacob taught me. I asked about the Bible says, do not suffer a witch to live. Remember, we're all wizards. We're not muggles. I'm agreeing with Grimgriz on this. And we use these symbols and words to do mind control. So we're all witches. But I would say, to take the idea, to put those together, I think it's right. You say, do not suffer a witch to live. So, I'm hesitating to support these sorcerers and their witchcraft. Right? We're all sorcerers. So I don't want any of us sorcerers, to become dependent on other people's attention. Ideally, I don't want that. Obviously, the ideal is not realistic, at least right now. That's something that people don't understand. I don't think Claire Call understands it, Brent Cooper. A lot of the kind of more immature types, because I was less mature and I made the same mistake, is that the ideal is something you can move toward, but you got to do it gently and gentleness. You got to have patience, kindness. So, anyways. So, yeah, that's my excuse, Grimgriz. That's all the things going through my head. I could go onto my Patreon right now and make sure I'm unsubscribed to everyone. I think, to me, it's interesting I can pay someone to have a conversation with me. That makes sense. That might be a cool way of doing it, Grimgriz, is you say, hey, pay for this conversation. It's a way for all these people to do it. I remember at one point I was thinking about paying $400 to speak with Jordan Peterson before he got too famous. I remember Coleman Hughes. It would have cost me $10,000 to talk to that person. And I'm not hating on people who do that at all. But I would say that because, if you're popular, there's a lot of demands for your attention. It is a filtering process. I think there's better filtering processes. And then also, if you receive that money, you can also pool it and have it go toward outlets that benefit the world, right? There's a connected idea. I had when I started my company, I have a video. I could go find it. And I have some software where the idea was that all the money, I was receiving all my money through PayPal, and then I had an API, and I could create a website where people can see all the money I was receiving and all the money I was spending. That was the idea. Complete transparency. So that's the idea that I played with when I first started my company. But there's problems, there's issues that emerge whenever you have transparency. There's a part of me that would love to live stream every point of my life and every thought in my head, because I feel like I can be trusted. And you don't know who I am, and you don't know what goes through my head, and I want you to be able to trust me. But then, people would interpret things, right? So even if I am a trustworthy person, people would interpret the things in such a way that might not make sense. So I'm going to go back. So if I do behave a certain way based on the knowledge I have, and you don't know what I know, and you don't even know that the knowledge I have is important, then you might actually confuse and misinterpret and make mistakes in your interpretation. So that's the issue with transparency and all of that.
That's the thing. Okay, check this out. Like, if I was going to LARP as a responsible adult,
And if I had the screen with my supporters at the, like if I was doing this the way Gringers does it, my supporter is God, my supporter is my wife, my children, my coworkers, and my friends. And then you keep going. It's like the family who helped raise me, and the ancestors, like to Jacob's point, this combinatorial explosion of people who have led to this moment, which is you, where you are. That you have, that you wouldn't be where you are without all of these people. Now, the point that I don't know if Jacob realizes is that there are individuals throughout that mass combinatorial explosion who are like signals in the noise. There are events which are important. People and events that are very important, and we aren't very good at identifying the kinds of people and events that are important, such that we might perform events which allow for manifesting the events and identifying the people so that we can accelerate and become more productive in our transformation toward peace on earth. Like, that's not Jacob's goal. Part of my goal, though. Like, that's always been my issue. If I know the answer, and then I was ignored, then to me, there's a more fundamental problem, which is we aren't very good at recognizing who has the answer to our problem. That's our problem. We aren't good at doing that. So, yeah.
the first thing I would do is like look how to legally make a co-op in my state of origin, which happens to be Oklahoma, by the way, where there's tornadoes and stuff. Please send aid, Red Cross folks, to Seminole. I heard they got hit hard.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to the news, so let's go. This isn't the weather report about the sun. This is Seminole, Oklahoma tornado. 1 hour ago. Seminole, more than a dozen tornadoes. Whew. A wave of emotions. That's the empathy. Let's see. I've been in a tornado in my dreams. We don't know what we don't know. So I'm a problem solver, and then I become aware of something, and it's like, is there an answer to a problem? I did spend time in my past trying to come up with answers to problems about things like this. One interesting point is that the convective heat engine, not only could it transform deserts and provide reliable supply of water, food and shelter, and a city, and provide, as you build many of them, cities in which you can run experiments related to religion and politics, by which we can, discover the ideal ways of hiring, firing, promoting, and demoting. It can also change the weather such that we actually have climate control for the planet or for your region, and maybe you don't have tornadoes. You don't see it, but underneath this thing there is a system which allows for some regulation, some movement of energy. I'll put it that way. And when you start moving energy around underneath the surface of the earth, that also allows for you to do things related to managing the pressure near which are responsible for things like volcanoes and potentially earthquakes. So yeah, there is this idea of a future where there is peace on earth, where you actually don't have tornadoes and hurricanes and volcanoes and earthquakes, and you live forever, and we are all immortal, and everything's good. And we're able to, I think that we'll be able to know everything, every thought, and every event throughout existence, no matter when it happened. I think that'll happen as well. I think that we'll also be able to teleport. So there'll be telepathy, teleportation. I mean, when peace on earth happens, it's going to be pretty interesting. Anyways. Yeah, it's sad. And yeah, there's things, I mean, we're all going through struggles. I've got an uncle right now his memory is not good. He's having some kind of dementia, and he's got stage 4 cancer. And got another uncle who was diagnosed with ALS. And there's got a friend whose dad died recently. And these things, this is life. There's a, go to the vampires and zombies, loss. We experience a sense of loss when we lose that which we have become attached to. This happens. This happens. Like, that sentence is true, separate from all other sentences in this post. That's what I try to do. So, it sounds like, you know, there could be like a donation. It would be cool, for example, to say, oh, Grim Grizz pointed me at Seminole, Oklahoma, and here's a fund, and I can give to the Grim Grizz Seminole, Oklahoma fund, and then know that that pool is going to, he's saying it should go to the Red Cross. I've heard the Red Cross is good. I've never researched them. So, yeah, and, you know, instead of the patron, I could be a something else. What do you call that? Yeah, and then there's the question of, well, should there be credit? Your charity. Like, should there be credit? You know, say there's some kid recently who was doing woodworking, and his dad ended up using Instagram to gather attention for his kid who was doing woodworking, and then he ended up he couldn't actually create for everyone who started following him, and so he did a creation and allowed for donations that ended up going to, I think, Ukraine. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of power there. There's a lot of power. You know, the question is what does it do? How is the money being used? That's the reason I wanted to do the idea with, I'm going to be this entity that has transparency for the inputs and outputs of monetary decisions. Because, I might make mistakes, but maybe I can get feedback about the mistakes I'm making so that I can make better decisions with the money in order to accomplish the goal. And so how is the Red Cross spending their money? And I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I know they're making mistakes. How is that money going to help? And so you can end up with people who are without a house. And then, maybe you could buy tents, right? I mean, is living in tents such a bad idea? That reminds me of Michael Sartori talking about the Jews wandering in the deserts with their tents. That reminds me about the convective heat engine, which is going to be a structure with canvas tents. So are we just going to go rebuild the homes right where they were? I just had a house built. The people who built the house weren't that great. A lot of people making mistakes building houses. I'm reminded of, there's a homeless person on the street. Do you give them money? Does that help if you give them money? It's like, it's not so obvious. And then I'm reminded of kind of this idea in some of my recent videos. I went through past Gavin from 10, 12 years ago, talking about, vouchers. And when I wanted to start my company, I was thinking, I'll show the world how to do it. I'll have this transparency with inputs and outputs. And I created vouchers for my partners, and I had credits. And so I played with the ideas, and they worked. I just wasn't extremely profitable. My problem was I had a hard time asking people to give me money. I had people giving me money, and they weren't using the product, and I felt bad about it. And so I was like, I like to receive money. I like to, in exchange for work, for something that, a fruit that I've generated that other people are using. So. But patience, gentleness, kindness. These bad things are happening all over the place. All over the place. I could try to go connect with the Red Cross as someone who has built software to allow for transparency of financial information and feedback on mistakes made regarding financial information, such that there could be more efficiency and productivity, less mistakes, and education. I could do that. I've never done that for the Red Cross. I've done that with other nonprofits, and I've been ignored and rejected. Just some thoughts.
Hard. Mitz, thank you for showing up in the Hive Mind chat. My good man, because there's Michael Sartori. You can click on his name.
There he is. He talked about tents in response to, my Brent Cooper. treatment plan was, it's like you end up with people who they just cling to a position. They set up their house and their foundation, and they're not willing to move. But it would be better to, and I think Michael, I'm trying to share what I got from Michael Sartori's wizardry and mind control, or his attempt at it, is that it would be better if we were tent dwellers instead of people who created foundations, trying to create permanent foundations that cannot change. I think there's good imagery for all of this stuff. But he does have a contradiction in that when we started talking about this Roe v. Wade stuff, he had mentioned that it's a feature that things change slowly. So there is a contradiction between the idea that there's a government that's changing, that's big and changes slowly, versus an individual who is changing slowly. Tent dwellers. We're trying to figure out education here, guys. Looks like my firstborn just woke up, and that means that's all for today. And so, hello. I'm going to share this in the Broken Clock Tower, where even Paul of Tarsus is right twice a day. Yeah, I'll leave you with that. Have a good one. With love. I appreciate all of you. And remember, embody, we want what's best for you. It also means be a good friend. Love your neighbor. And if you're loving your neighbor, then you are loving God. God is not a person. God is a force. Now, we could talk about it. It's nuanced. Or maybe I intentionally ignore the nuance because it works. There you go.